Hello and good day everyone, meteorologist Mark Muller here for MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you here with me. We have a lot going on in the tropics. All eyes are going to be on the Gulf of Mexico as we head over the next week or two here. Could we actually have our first tropical storm? There's a couple opportunities here as we get tropical waves surging right here out of the Caribbean and into the eastern and central Gulf. And if you haven't checked out my Hurricane 2024 Outlook, a link in the description down below, and at the end of this video, I go over what I think is going to happen this hurricane season. Let's get into it. So we're starting off with our tropics here, the European model, and then I'll show you the GFS momentarily. Here is our big old tropical wave here into the northwestern Caribbean. Here's a little disturbance out here southeast of Bermuda. And then our next tropical waves lining up here. Let me zoom out for you so I can show you the large scale pattern. Look at this surge of tropical moisture with these tropical waves just lining up one right after another here. Look at this right out here into the MDR of the Atlantic. So let's put this into motion, and we're going to take a look especially at our big tropical wave over the next several days. It's also going to be providing some beneficial rains here from Belize, the Yucatan Peninsula, Honduras, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, parts of the central and northern Bahamas. And look at this as we go throughout the 10th here into the 11th. Look at our system. It's pretty well stationary here. We have a series of low pressures trying to develop down here across Central America, but look at this tropical moisture just streaming northward here towards South Florida and the Bahamas. And this is just going to continue as we go out here in time. You see the 11th into the 12th. This is an elongated area of low pressure. It seems to be attached at this point to this low here to the north, so it's mimicking at this point a stalled out frontal boundary, but watch this. Look at this. As we go through the 12th into the 13th and 14th, this system just continues to bubble up here, and we do start to see evidence here, at least further westward, of some low development on the west side of this big expansion of tropical moisture that's just surging up through the Cayman Islands here and the Florida Keys all the way up into central Florida. So there's going to be, whatever this system becomes, there's still going to be a tremendous amount of moisture and rain with this. And as we head towards the 14th, the 15th, look at this. Yeah, this is a crazy amount of tropical moisture. It extends, its tropical connection actually extends all the way down here into Central America and South America, down towards Colombia and Panama. And look at here into the Eastern Pacific, activity increasing as well. But I want to make note, look at this big tropical wave. This is a massive one, getting ready to head through the Lesser Antilles right around the 16th here. Now look at the Eastern Gulf, just exploding with tropical moisture here. As we continue to go out here in time, you see by the 16th all the way into the 17th, our tropical system is pushing westward here with our next tropical wave out here into the Lesser Antilles. So let's zoom in here. Look at this right up here into the Eastern and Central Gulf by the 17th and into the 18th. We see the surge of moisture. Could we see the potential for some sort of development as this tropical moisture continues to surge north? So looking at our GFS model run here, let's see how well that lines up with our European model as we continue the rest of later Sunday into Monday. There is our big tropical wave situated between Cancun, Havana, Cuba, and all the way to Jamaica and the Cayman Islands here, and there's South Florida and the western Bahamas. Here is our next tropical wave just lining up out here. You can see a big good perspective here. There just east of Trinidad and Tobago, there's our next system, and another big system coming off well south of the Cape Verde Islands this time of year. So as we put this into motion, let's see the evolution of this potential system. By the 11th into the 12th, you can see that big surge of tropical moisture right across South Florida. We could end up with almost a foot of rain over the next 7 to 10 days in many of these locations, all the way into the northern and central Bahamas as well as we head into the 12th, into the 13th. This system does really stall out in a very warm water environment too, which is very concerning. Now you can see over towards Trinidad and Tobago, our intertropical convergence zone is bouncing to the north here. And as we continue to go through the 15th into the 16th, you start to see here the low pressure closing off just west of the Florida Peninsula. So showing up a little bit further to the east here on the GFS. So the GFS is more easterly. Look at how the surge of tropical moisture continues just off the U.S. East Coast here. And as we continue to go in time here, you can see towards the 16th into the 17th, that low pressure riding to the west here. maybe a subtropical or even tropical system, it is very persistent. And that is the key this time of year over a very warm sea surface temperatures towards the 18th into the 19th. See how this system is drifting westward here, surging moisture all the way up to the Ohio River Valley as we get into the 19th. You see that low pressure down here into the southern Gulf of Mexico. This big old blob of moisture. And here is our next tropical wave here across the Dominican Republic. Really surging tropical moisture out here. And look at our intertropical convergence zone really active out here into the Atlantic, the MDR, just south of the MDR. Look at this system as it surges towards the 20th. The GFS is really interesting because initially the GFS keeps this system further east and then starts to drift it further west of what the European model is showing. We also have, there's that disturbance that was showing up on the European model way out here, also showing up, and I'll show that on the mid-level dry air analysis momentarily. But look at this. There's our next tropical wave knocking on the door of Jamaica here towards the 20th. Look at Central America as well, really getting some beneficial rain through Belize, the Yucatan Peninsula, Honduras, Guatemala, these areas. But it looks like it's Texas here on the 21st that this surge of tropical moisture continues. And unfortunately, look at our next system here, barreling through Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. It looks like it's going to take a very similar track here as our previous system, showing up on the 24th. Look at this, right into the Central Gulf, inundating Florida with more potential heavy rain. And could this actually close off into a potential tropical system? Well, it looks like the GFS is trending that direction. This is so far out, though. Take it with a grain of salt. But the trends are here as we head towards later into the second and third week of June that we could have our potential first tropical storm. So for our sea surface temperatures, this is why I'm concerned, not in the real short term, but this wave that's going to be heading into the Eastern Gulf. Look at these water temperatures it has to work with. I mean, we're eclipsing here 3 and 4 degrees Celsius above average. Look at the MDR out here as well, the Caribbean, and even parts off of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We're just looking like bathwater for this time of year in relative terms, more closer to September's water temperatures. Oh, thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our mid-layer dry air analysis here. You can see as we go out here in time, look at the Gulf of Mexico really dry, also the Eastern Caribbean, and lots of Saharan dust out here continuing to preclude any development at the current time. I expect that to thin as we go throughout the rest of June here, but look at this. Here's our tropical moisture here across the Western Caribbean into Monday and into Tuesday, and look what really starts to happen. That surges northward here. There's pretty big evidence that we're going to see that train of tropical moisture feeding northward here. So far, most of it staying in South Florida and off the southeast coast, but as we head throughout the week, yeah, that front here across the East Coast swipes offward pretty quickly here, but it keeps this tropical moisture locked from the Bahamas, especially the western Bahamas, South and Central Florida, and then across the Yucatan and Central America. So looking at the GFS model here, you can see confirmation here with the European model. As we go out here in time, you can see that plume of tropical moisture associated with our big tropical wave. And you get to about June 14th here, Friday. Look at this. There is a connection to both the Atlantic, Caribbean, and the Pacific here. And that just surges northward here, initiating that potential low pressure system, subtropical, tropical storm, potentially here, heading into the Central Gulf as we head towards Monday, June 17th. And look at that plume of moisture. Whatever this is, by the 18th into the 19th, look how that heads west. And I want to make note of another feature behind it. Look at this. Yeah, this is around an area of high pressure here, and then we have another potential low closing off here out in the intertropical convergence zone, although it is pretty far to the south. But look at this surge of moisture right up here into the Central Gulf. And let's go a little bit further out here in time as we get to the end of our timeline, June 20th. 21st, 22nd. Look, we have another potential low here between Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. So things are really going to start to explode out here into the Atlantic. All right, so as we head through the third week of June, the 23rd, you can see the bullseye of that system now heading west of Florida and then targeting continuing the Caribbean here. And as we continue through the end of the month here, you can see that swings westward towards Texas here, but much of the southeast getting in on this as well, Central America. And as we continue through the first part of July, the first week of July, you start to notice something here. Things start to dry out a little bit here across the Caribbean, but start to ramp up across the northeast Caribbean islands and the western Gulf of Mexico towards Texas. Now, as we continue here, this takes us through mid-July, July 14th. You can see things really start to fill in here. Even off the southeast coast, we see a positive precipitation anomaly, and that continues towards Florida as we head through the end of July. Now, as we head over to the CANSIPS model here, this is really going bonkers here with the precipitation here in July. This is July's forecast here. Let's see if we can get June. There we go. There's June. Look at the bullseye coming right in across the central Caribbean here, and there's our intertropical convergence zone. Watch as we go into July, though. This explodes north and westward, even up the U.S. East Coast here, all the way into the mid-Atlantic. We'll have to see how much of this is tropical and how much of this is synoptic storm systems. But as we head through August, that trend just continues here. Look at the intertropical convergence zone right into the Gulf, off the southeast coast, and all the way into Central America and all the Caribbean islands as we head into September. Look at that. That's just going to be a tremendous amount of tropical moisture here into October. And could we still be talking about tropical systems into November here across the Caribbean and the MDR of the Atlantic? It's quite possible. All right, so looking at precipitation amounts here as we go through the next couple days into the early part of the week with our big tropical area of low pressure, this tropical wave. Look what we have going on here, not only in Central America, but as we head through next weekend into early next week, look at the rainfall totals here. The Cayman Islands really just missing the worst of it, missing Jamaica here. And then look it up here towards Florida. These areas, even in the northern Bahamas, we're getting upwards of 90 to 150 millimeters of rain. We're looking anywhere from 3.5 all the way up to 8 inches in some of these locations. And look at the Yucatan, Belize area, these Central American locations really filling in as well. Now, as we get into the Eastern Caribbean here, you can see this week seems pretty dry for the most part. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, the Lesser Antilles. But then we get towards, say, the 18th into the 19th, we do start to get some of these tropical waves bubbling up here towards Trinidad and Tobago. That'll push you closer to 90 to 100 millimeters, right in that 3.5 to 4 inch range. But we're averaging out here across the Northeast Caribbean islands, even a little area of quietness around the Turks and the Caicos here, but averaging out to about 25 to as much as 45 millimeters of rain. We're getting anywhere from about 3/4 to 1.25 inches. So as we take a look at the GFS model here, it pretty much agrees as we go through the rest of the month here. Look at the northern Bahamas here through the third week of June. That trend, even towards Jamaica here, really getting upwards of 90 to 125 millimeters of rainfall. That's anywhere from about 3.5 inches all the way up to 5.5 inches of rain. And heading to the Western Caribbean here, Central America, yeah, this is going to be the trend. We're going to see these tropical waves really target these areas from Central America all the way up to Florida location, Cayman Islands, and right around the Jamaica area and Cuba. All right, so for HRRR model here, as we head through the rest of Sunday, here Sunday evening in particular, you can see we're going to be watching a couple areas here, the Mid-Mississippi River Valley for severe weather and flooding, and then up here in northern New York and northern New England, we're going to be watching those showers and thunderstorms develop. Here across South Florida too, South and Central Florida, the Bahamas, we're going to be watching moisture with this tropical disturbance. So as we continue to push this out throughout the overnight hours, you can see showers kind of tapering off for the most part here into the northeast as we head towards midnight. This storm system here across the deep south could continue to produce severe weather. So watch this across northern Alabama into North Georgia and the western part of Texas into New Mexico and southeastern Colorado. we're going to continue to watch for severe weather as well. Now, as we head towards 6 a.m. on Monday morning, you can see most areas calming down except for the Carolinas here. We'll continue to watch that severe weather complex, producing more in the way of heavier rain during this time. But look at here across South Texas, we could be seeing a flare-up of those showers and thunderstorms, some damaging wind, large hail, and isolated tornadoes. But here it is continuing across South Florida, that tropical moisture really setting up here in place, and some widely scattered showers here Monday with a lot of clouds here into the Ohio Valley into the northeast. That's something we're going to continue to watch here. Now, as we continue throughout the rest of the afternoon into the evening hours, the common theme here is strong thunderstorms across West Texas here into the Central Plains. So watch out. We could be looking at some very severe thunderstorms even into the Northern Plains here. And then as we continue to go out here, the last frame on Tuesday morning, look at your attention here. From Florida off the southeast coast, this stream of tropical moisture is going to be our theme for this week into the following week. Now, picking up where our HRRR model left off, heading through the rest of your Tuesday here into your Wednesday, we actually have clearing here across the Northeast and into the Great Lakes as a high pressure builds in. Our next storm here into the central states, and we watch that tropical moisture just pluming across parts of Florida and the Bahamas down and through the Yucatan here. As I mentioned here in our tropical update, as we continue in time, that trend is just going to continue here towards the 14th, though, the end of the week, right around Friday. I wanted to make note for you. There is that system. That is your best chance of showers and even some stronger thunderstorms here through parts of the Midwest, the upper Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes. Watch out. Friday could be your day for some gully washers, heavy rain, damaging wind, large hail. That moves to the east here on Friday afternoon into the evening hours. See how there's a big push towards Friday night into early Saturday morning. And then you can see our next system out here in the plains. Look at here. That is going to result in tremendous rainfalls here, which I will go over momentarily of how much rain you could be looking at here across Florida. It's going to be tremendous. But look at this as we head towards the 16th, the 17th, into the 18th. We get some severe weather outbreaks here across the Midwest and the northern plains. But watch around our big old Bermuda high as it builds westward here. Look at this tropical moisture surging on the west side of this high pressure system. So whatever path this system decides to take, it will cause a resulting surge in tropical moisture all the way up the Appalachians here, potentially right around the 18th, 19th, and 20th. Now, going over to the GFS here, see how it lines up with the European model, showing very nicely this tropical moisture surging across the Florida Peninsula as we head through June 11th into the 12th. Some clearing here into the east. That's some great news for you to get out there and enjoy. But here we go with our next system. There it is, showing up about the same time frame as the European model. Watch out later Friday here. This is early Friday morning, but some big-time thunderstorms could be cranking across the Great Lakes here. And that starts to push towards Cleveland as we head throughout the day on Friday. You can see that front moving through about 2 or 3 p.m. there, pushing into the northeast. There is that surge of tropical moisture off the southeast coast. Let's see how far to the north and to the west that makes it. You can see how that high pressure system building into the northeast here, keeping the northeast really nice for next weekend. That's some great news. But unfortunately, all eyes are on the Gulf Coast region as we get pushing moisture here to the northeast. And some of that moisture might make it as far north as the Ohio Valley into the Mississippi River Valley as we go out here in time. Texas seems to be getting some beneficial rain by the time we get to the 21st into the 22nd, at least on this forecast model. And then all eyes are going to continue to be on the Gulf of Mexico as we head to our last frame around the 25th. It seems like a much quieter weather pattern here, at least across the north, but watch the southeast. That's where the Gulf of Mexico is definitely open for business. So here we go with precipitation amounts here on the GFS as we head throughout the new week here. Pretty quiet compared to previous weeks until we get later next weekend here in the central states. But here it is across the northeast, the rest of your Sunday night in particular, upstate New York, parts of New England picking up to about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, locally higher. But look at this, as we go out here in time, the common theme is going to really be inundation of Florida here and severe weather here across the plains. So Florida is going to be the really tricky spot. 6 to as much as 12 inches of rain, especially in South Florida, spreading northward here. And out here in the plains, anywhere from 2 to 4.5 inches of rain with a lot of those stronger thunderstorms. And switching over to our longer range European model here, you can see there it is throughout the week into the following week, right around the 19th. There is that model trend confirming with the GFS, our big tropical wave here in the Eastern Gulf. Those rainfall amounts anywhere from 4 to as much as 11 inches of rain. I wanted to bring your attention here to parts of the eastern Great Lakes, Ohio Valley. You start to get rain here towards Friday into Saturday. We could have some stronger thunderstorms in this area come the end of this week. So looking at the upper air pattern here as we progress throughout this week, you can see that trough in the east that's slowly weakening and trying to push out of here. It doesn't have much way as there's a big area of high pressure up here to the northeast. And then as we continue here on the medium range climate model, you can see a very fast moving weather pattern setting up here, lots of troughs and ridges, but no trough or ridge getting strong enough to really dominate until we get to about the third week of June here. Look what starts to develop here in the east, a big old Bermuda high ridge here, and that's going to spread westward here across the plains. And look at that. Yeah. So now mid to late June is looking much warmer and more on the high pressure side here as we go throughout the rest of June. Now let's get into the beginning of July. You can see still that ridge persistent here across the east. Eastern Canada, though, getting pummeled with some of these upper level low disturbances. And then we get towards mid-July here. You start to see some storminess. This is actually associated with the tropics. So let's take a look at our Canadian weather forecast here. Let's zoom out so that I can show you all of Canada here. Looking really good here, especially across central and eastern Canada. As we move those systems out, our next system could push some severe weather all the way up into Manitoba and western parts of Ontario as we head throughout Tuesday morning into Tuesday night. And that system pulls up towards Hudson Bay. You can see we got a next system here around the 13th, Thursday into Friday. Some potentials for some severe weather cranking across southern Ontario and Quebec, and eventually some rain near New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and up into the Canadian Maritimes. Now we start to scour out all these systems, high pressure building into Saskatchewan, Manitoba, over to Ontario. British Columbia and Alberta are going to be the two areas of big storminess, as well as Quebec as we head towards, say, the 15th into the 16th. So next weekend, that storm really putting a damper on your weekend here into eastern Canada. And then our next big double, triple barrel low pressure system here towards the 16th into the 17th. That barrels all the way up to Hudson Bay, but look what it leaves in its wake here. Really nice high pressure system building into much of Canada as we head through the third week of June. It's looking nice until we get to the west areas out here, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. By the 20th, we could have our next storm tracking all the way up into the Hudson Bay region. But high pressure really in control here into eastern Canada as we head into your third full week of June, looking really nice until about the 23rd, where we get the potential, what looks like a severe weather outbreak here for parts of southeast Canada. So here's our European model showing that precipitation here across Canada. You can see as we head throughout this week, yeah, things are going to be continuing to get wetter here as we go out here in time. So lots of storminess across Canada here. Many locations getting 35 to 60 millimeters, locally higher to 90 millimeters in some of these areas. So we're looking anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2.5 inches on average, close to 3+ inches. So out here into the Western Pacific, what is going on out here? Well, actually a whole not much of anything other than the big monsoon plume. We actually don't really have much in the way of tropical activity. You can see all these surges of moisture up here associated with your monsoon this time of year here into June. Our intertropical convergence zone west of the Philippines here not showing much in the way of activity as well. You can see, yeah, there are low pressure systems lining up here. Let me zoom out. Japan is surprisingly dry up here. Southeast Asia, of course, continuing from Vietnam all the way up to South China here with the storms. And you can see one storm in particular here really gets cranking right around the 15th into the 16th. Could this be some sort of subtropical system? At this point, I don't think so. I think it's associated with a cold core system, but we'll continue to watch it here. And as we go out here in time, do we have any chances, at least on our European forecast model here? Not really. You can see by the third week of June, we start to get that monsoon really plowing here into Japan. So for the GFS model, is there anything going on this model? No. Actually, as we continue in time, we have a few tropical waves out here east of the Philippines. There's our big monsoon plume here, all the way from Thailand, Vietnam, all the way over to South China. Japan initially is going to miss out on this big surge as you get some really nice clear skies. So if you're vacationing there this time of year, it's going to be unusually dry. But look at this. As we head towards the 15th and the 16th, that's when you start to get a surge of tropical moisture. Now, something does start to show up here on the GFS east of the Philippines as we get towards the 17th into the 18th. So it doesn't flare it up too much. You can see it showing up here onto the 19th. Very weak system. So we'll watch it here, but it does not look that impressive in nature here. I got plenty more weather for you in just a moment, but take a look at my affiliate. Do you want some awesome maps? Check this out. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. All right, so taking a look at this week's temperatures, the common theme is going to be this cooler air across the lakes in the Northeast pulling away. But Monday is going to be one of the coolest days, upper 50s, lower 60s across the lakes into parts of northern New England here, even into the eastern Midwest here and western Great Lakes. But look at here along the Gulf Coast. Watch all this heat really start to build throughout the week as we go from Monday into Tuesday here, the 11th. Look at this. You can see temperatures finally moderating into the 70s across the eastern lakes in the Northeast, 90s out here in the Southwest and across the Deep South as well. And then as we continue throughout the week into Wednesday, look at this heat build. This is going to be that big heat dome that does begin to build across the east. You can see 90s going all the way up to Washington, D.C., even Wilkes-Barre, Scranton here, southern Ohio. Look at this, Chicago area, even southern New England approaching 90 in many of these areas. Look at all the way up through the Carolinas here, mid to upper 90s, this pushing northward. And as we head towards next weekend, you can kind of see we get a little bit of a battleground here, 70s to the north, and very quickly we get these 90s just to the south. Extended outlook from our hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York, and Pennsylvania. As we take a look at Monday through Friday here, you can see some scattered showers on Monday, keeping those temperatures down, lots of clouds, 65 degrees. That upper level low starts to pull away from the northeast and southeast Canada and the Great Lakes. Tuesday and Wednesday, we see a big warming trend, those clouds burning off up near 90 by Thursday, and by Friday, we have a chance of afternoon scattered showers and thunderstorms. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MediaMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MediaMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MediaMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.